Shalu Manan is a TEDx speaker, transformation strategist, and change influencer, and she is currently working as Vice President HR Transformation at Genpact. She is part of the advisory board of an NGO, Muskan Dreams, which is working in the space of transforming education in government schools in India. As a practitioner of design thinking, Shalu has helped clients reimagine and innovate processes and create better experiences across finance, procurement, supply chain, and HR domain. She is a collaborative problem solver and has led cross-functional global teams to leverage her deep understanding of Lean, Six Sigma design thinking, and the love for technology to drive results and embed change across people supply chain, leadership development, and performance management. A continuous improvement enthusiast, she has led design and execution of capability development programs to build a culture of process excellence across 100,000 employees and 5,000 top leaders of Genpact and its multiple clients globally. This session will consist of 20 minutes of keynote speech, which will be followed by 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks, Manisha. Okay, so it's very exciting when one gets an opportunity to talk to people and share one's learning. So the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about my learnings and my lessons. Most importantly, in the last 6 months, how we all have changed ourselves pretty much overnight, and many of us have figured out ways of working. The reality is that the world that we knew and the life that we had lived has changed forever. And I think Vanna was just talking about it as well. And I heard some references to the speakers throughout the time that you've been all together, that everybody's talking about the lifestyle changing. But most importantly, I think there is an optimism towards the change now than what it was, say, 4 months back, because there are new things that are happening around us, and they are pretty intriguing. So what I wanted to share with you very quickly were my personal reflections of what I am seeing happening around me. And then what are some of the things that we as HR professionals and we as aspirants to become HR professionals need to keep in mind as we are shaping the brand, the image, the culture of organizations that we are part of. And then obviously, most importantly, how we as professionals need to make some choices about ourselves and what we can do to be relevant to the new world. So let's dive deep into my first set of insights on what I am seeing things changing like. So the first one that's really interesting is that there is an obvious openness for new ways of working. And we all have now clearly understood that the old strategies, the old ways of working, the old operating models are no longer relevant to the way we want to live. So if you want to stay profitable and you want to make sure that you continue to be in business, you've got to be able to accept that there will be new strategies and there will be new operating models to get work done. Nothing of the past can as is just get applied to the present, and we can hope to make a profitable and relevant organization for all the stakeholders, the society, the people, the employees, the customers, and you've got to be able to accept this before anything else. The second thing which has happened and changed pretty drastically is the measures of success have transformed. And overnight, we've seen mindset that has changed. In a lot of industries where there was a question of survival, there have been innovations that have been thought about, which were not thought about in the past. And the measures of success, which were old school, old days, are no longer as is relevant, right? If your job was to get sales by doing a multiple set of interviews and meetings a day, and now you are not in a position to do that because of social distancing and lack of connectivity, so to say, the physical connectivity, so to say, then you can't be measured any longer on those metrics or those measures. And clearly organizations are going through that transition to say, how do we make sure that in the new way of we put new measures of success for our people, for our leaders, for our business, and then change the mindset towards how do we get work done. The third thing that I'm observing pretty prevalent and far less drama over work from home. I still remember days when we used to be in discussions and forums like these, and lots of organizations used to talk about that everybody wants to be employee centric and give them flexibility, but a lot of organizations were close to the thought of work from home. The funny part is that overnight, given the survival instincts that we all have, many organizations started investing in technology so that they are able to enable work from home. And I think now we've reached a point in that journey where the boundary between work and home is dissolving to an extent that you are thinking, how do we make sure that you establish some order in this flexibility that we are providing for people to work, right? Working from home does not mean working the whole time, because you not just work from home, you have to work for home as well. So I think that's interesting dimensions from an HR professional standpoint as to how will you dabble and enable your employees to dabble with working and yet focused and taking care of people who matter the most to them, right? At the end of the day, we are as good as our support system. So that flexibility that has been given to us as employees and as organizations, as we are providing it to everybody around us, we have to start thinking, how do we enable people to continue to be engaged, satisfied, and productive all at the same time? I think the fourth thing that's happening is this, and I think Vanna touched upon it as well. There are new growth industries that are emerging. So all is not bad. Of course, there are challenges, and nobody can undermine the impact it is creating on all of us. And I was the other day talking to another MBA batch in another college, and it's quite interesting, right? Folks who have graduated this year and have offers in hand, and some of them have been delayed, some of them are dealing with rescinding of offers. It's a tough time. It's a very tough time for students who are graduating this year, and it's quite important that we don't become rigid about our expectations. We build in a little bit of agility
Sorry,
in
ma'am.
accepting and opening our eyes. Yes, Manisha.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we are not able to see your presentation.
Oh, my screen share stopped. Give me a minute. I will put it back up. I have no idea why that happened. Were you able to hear me?
Yes,
Fine?
ma'am. Yeah.
Okay.
Now we
Okay.
can see your screen.
Okay, so I'm on the fourth point, which is all about saying that there are growth industries that are emerging, and as long as you have an open mind, as long as you are agile, as long as you are willing to invest in yourself, you will be able to find new opportunities to get in. The point is, you should be mentally, emotionally ready to ride this new wave. And with that in mind, I have this personal reflection that every end is a new beginning. It's about what you make out of it. And as HR professionals, as we start leading teams, if you are a professional already and you're listening in today, as a leader, we have to balance a two-speed world now. And the fact is this, that as much as we have to fail fast, we have to still focus on defect-free products and services. And as much we have to make sure that we look at forward prediction, we have to be able to reflect wherever relevant on where we insight. And as much as we have to have the ability to change, we have to stand firm for the values, for the beliefs that matter to us the most. So this is an interesting time where we have to take risk and yet drive compliance, where we have to do experimentation and yet drive standardization. And as leaders, as we evolve in this two-speed world that we have to deal with, there are a couple of things that we as organizations, as the HR leaders of the organizations we are part of, or aspirants who will join organizations in a few months or days from now, it's important for you to realize that when you generate results through people, there are three important things that matter and make a big difference. And this is as relevant to current scenarios as it is relevant to the old world, if I may put it that way. But it's all about saying, how do you enable your workforce? So is your employee able to do what you expect them to do? And this is where you start reinventing yourself. In the last couple of months, you've seen some great stories of resilience where new ways, new tools, new frameworks have been experimented with. They say that COVID has caused far faster digital adoption and digital transformation than all the years in the last 5 to 10 years, where organizations were being influenced to change and they were taking their own time to figure out ways to do it. Overnight, The appetite to change and accept a different way of working just happened. And in many, many ways, this has been good for the industry, right? Because we've been able to then drive far more productivity in adopting new ways of working. So enablement is all about making sure that your people have the material, the infrastructure, the ability to do what you expect them to do. But just enabling people is never enough. There is an aspect of enforcement as well. And I personally believe enforcement is always the one which has to be the minimal from an HR system setup standpoint. But it has to be there because it kind of puts some guardrails around what is acceptable behavior and what is acceptable action. And this is where, when I was talking about that in the new order, we have seen a change in measures of success. And as HR, are we able to redesign the goals, redesign the strategy around how will people achieve those goals? Figure out ways that in the new way of working, how will you make sure that people continue to get feedback? People continue to get that connection, that clarity of purpose as they go forward in their jobs. And while there are challenges, it is continuing to be important that while the employee is able to do something, have you made sure that as HR and as business leaders, you are making it clear what people are supposed to do? So that's my second tower of generating results to people. The third thing that really matters is while you can do all sorts of enablement and enforcement, if your people are not willing to participate in it, to make the best use of the frameworks and infrastructure that you've set up, to be aligned on the purpose and the goals that you are setting up for yourself, then you still won't achieve anything. And to me personally, encouragement is the most important part of these three-pronged strategies that you can adopt. Making sure that your employees are willing is all about making sure that you're focusing on their wellness, their empowerment, and their enjoyment of what they do every day for you. It is about rethinking the rewards and recognition that are important to drive the right behavior. And I'll come to a few specific talent strategy elements that you should start looking for. The first one is you must think about, as an HR leader or an HR team member or a business partner, how will you enable a fluid talent pool? How will you redesign your hire to retire process in such a way that you can big time leverage technology, but make sure that you're establishing linkage between success and how skills and performance comes together when enabled in the new way of working. Focus a lot more on differentiating rewards so that you are able to recognize the capability and results people are generating versus just making sure that you reward for people who just show up and are unable to positively contribute to what is the new purpose and new direction that your organization is going through. The second big area that in your talent strategy you have to rethink and reimagine to a certain degree is in this distributed workforce that you have now, how will you create an enriching, purposeful career? So think about your culture framework from the lens of business realities. Think about your leadership development in this new order of working. How will you inculcate the skills that now matter in this new way of getting things done? And then implement your career streaming approaches in such a way that it's no longer about ladders, right? It is much more about lattice way building and encouraging people to build their careers. So that's your second big bucket that you have to focus on. The third area which you have to really get deep into is how do you energize your multi-generational workforce? And you can always say this was true even yesterday, right? In the world which is at this moment unable to physically meet as frequently and in the lots that we were used to. And I know different parts of our country are now opening up. Things are, at least attempt is being put in to make things normal. The fact is it's not normal. And HR professionals of all people have to make sure that we facilitate this thinking, that things are not normal. They will not be normal so soon. So we have to continue the rhythm of focusing on a distributed workforce, coming together in a virtual manner, and how do you encourage them? How do you connect them? How do you make them inspired about what they do every day because all of us yearn that social touch, right? All of us want to stay connected with our people, and we are not able to do that as frequently as we want to. Communication channels have to change. How do we create collaboration in a virtual world is its own set of challenges, and we've got to be able to think about ways that how do we make it easy for people. So, as HR professionals, three pillars to generate results. You need to enable, you need to enforce a little bit, and have a massive, massive focus on encouragement that handles people's emotional, physical, mental needs as you go through this journey. Change with your people to achieve business results for your stakeholders.
Sorry, ma'am, to interrupt you again.
Let's now jump, change a little bit of. Yes, you lost my screen again. There's some problem
Yes,
with the network. It just takes.
Ma'am, actually, if you have any other network, then you can switch to it.
Actually, I'm able to see fine. It's just that. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am, actually, but your voice is also breaking. So, if it's possible.
My voice.
Otherwise, you can just turn off your video, maybe.
Let me try, folks. If I will change my broadband, I can try doing that. Let's do this. Let's start with stopping my video. It might be just a little easier. Nimisha, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it breaking still?
It's better, ma'am.
Let me share my. It's better. Okay, thank you. My apologies, folks. It's just the new order making crazy things. Let's see if I can put my screen again. Is my screen back up, Nimisha?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yes, ma'am, it is. Okay. All right. So I hope everybody heard, or if not, then let me just do a quick refresh. As an HR leader, three things matter with respect to getting results from your people. The first one is enable, the second one is enforce, the third one is encourage. My recommendation, spend inordinate time thinking about encouragement and enablement, enforce the most critical things and not everything. Do not get into the illusion that the world has become normal. Just some parts of our country are opening up. Things are going to take their time, and we have to be the truth keeper in the organization, because sometimes our leaders can get more focused on getting results out and sometimes undermine the impact of how the world's changed on people who have to get that results out. So as HR professionals, we have to be that truth keeper, that conscience keeper, to tell them and educate them about the realities of people so that we are still able to get the best results while keeping in mind how do we need to enable them. And the three areas where you should think about reimagining your talent strategy is: first, enable a fluid talent pool. Second is create purposeful careers. Even in this environment, it is absolutely relevant for you. You will lose good talent if you cannot figure out purposeful means of helping them achieve what matters to them. So rethink some of your culture frameworks, some of your leadership development areas, and generate a career streaming strategy versus a career ladder strategy. And the third one continues to be: how do you drive inclusion? How do you drive collaborative success in the new virtual way of working and getting things done? So I was just going to change gears a little bit. Nimisha, I'll check if my voice is fine right now. I hope you can still hear me. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up, so I'm assuming that you're able to hear me. Let me try switching on the video again and see if it still works. I think in the virtual world, one of the things which I have learned is the more you can see people, the more connected you feel, and you feel that you're talking to people versus talking to a blank screen. So I'll attempt again. Nimisha, just keep me honest. If there is any problem in hearing me, I'll switch off the video back.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Yeah. So I'm shifting gear, and I'm going to talk to you about what you as a professional need to keep in.
Ma'am, we lost you again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Now I can hear you.
Okay. Manisha, can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll give the video off then. Sorry, folks. You can't see me. You can hear me. I hope I'll do a good job of connecting with you over just the talk and not the visual. But as long as you can see my screen, I'm assuming that you will get my lesson and learnings to build your personal brand and build the brand for HR department as you lead the HR strategy, the talent strategy for your organization. So coming to what we can do as professionals as we go
Sorry
through.
to interrupt you again, ma'am. Ma'am, we cannot see your screen. You have to share your PPT again.
Okay, it's showing me that I am sharing, so I have no idea why you can't see my screen. Oh, let me stop sharing and try again.
I think it's just the network issue.
Not sure. Can you see my screen right now? See me on my screen?
Ma'am, we can hear you, but we cannot see your screen. Sorry for the technical glitch, folks. She will be joining us again. Just give us a few minutes, please. Ma'am, please try refreshing your screen once. till the time we are waiting for her to connect again, let me just talk about what she said and what I got from this session. My key learning takeaway was that every end is a new beginning. It is what you make out of it. Whatever situation it may be, we need to take risks and rise from that situation. And we have to do the experimentation and yet drive standardization. And I think in this current situation, we all know these are some hard times, and we need to, come up with new solutions and just go on. I'm sorry to all the delegates for the inconvenience that is caused. She will be joining us right back in another 2 minutes. Our team is working on it, so just please wait.
Nimisha, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Ma'am, I will request you to maybe turn off your video to save the bandwidth.
I think it's
And
not the bandwidth issue. There's something wrong with my laptop. It's never been there that way. So here's the thing. I am booting up another laptop and it's switching on. Let me see if anything can go wrong now. I'll have two laptops trying to figure things out. But let's try it out this time again and see where it goes. Sorry, everybody. This was definitely not the planned way of doing it, but it's just that today everything that can go wrong is going wrong with my connection. Can you still hear me, Nimisha?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. I will try and boot up my other laptop as well beside this so that if it goes bad, I'll at least keep going on. So give me like 1 minute, I will get both on. Okay, I'm back again. I got disconnected, folks. I'm sorry. Okay. Amisha, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll now switch on my video and I hope this time the connection doesn't snap. So, folks, 5 things as I was sharing with you all as you reset your journey from here as individual professionals. What will be our brand? What will we stand for? And how will we use some of these to impact the role that we are doing. Because as HR professionals, the choices we make to enable, to enforce, and to encourage our workforce at this stage is going to define how the market, how people, and how aspiring employees look at your brand and your organization from this standpoint. So the first thing that I have learned is accept the new reality and know you're not alone. What is happening to all of us is not just happening to one of us, which means that there is a higher degree of empathy around, where people are realizing that things are not as normal as they were. And there is a space to find new ways to work. But it will all start when you accept the new reality and you make sure that you are able to share your perspective from the new lens. The second thing, which is very critical, is to learn new skills. Be curious. And I know you might be wondering, this is something that we've been hearing for such a long time. Everybody says, learn new skills, be curious. I think the rate of speed at which you have to now learn things has crashed. Because overnight, many of us had to learn this new way of connecting and talking to each other. Imagine a year back, I would have been sitting across the table with most of you in a room and having this conversation. And we wouldn't be having this discussion of, okay, my connection is snapping and I need a new laptop. But this is the reality, right? We all have to learn to live with it, and we all have to learn to make the most of it. So if your one broadband doesn't work, have another one. If you don't have to figure out a way, or you don't know how to deal with this new things that you have to do in terms of new skills and new knowledge areas that you have to learn, no harm. There is no age to learn. So learn these new ways of connecting, talking, getting on videos, recording yourself, and getting things done. And that is going to be important, because when people look at you, and if they look at you as a resilient person, your resilience is going to take you through this. And if people look at you as a resilient person, because that's a core skill everybody's looking for in new people, is your ability to find ways to learn new skills, learn new knowledge areas, so that you are continuously checking your relevance in the new world. So that's, to me, a very, very important thing. Being humble to accept that I don't know, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to step away and keep my ego aside and be curious about how to get things done. The third thing is, don't give up on positivity. There is no space for cynicism, because it creates excuses in us. It justifies to us why we are not able to do something, or why our state is what it is. It forces us to become a victim, which is exactly what you don't want to do. As a person in whom people entrust, in whom people hope to find great ways of work getting done, it is important for you to realize that if you do not stay positive, the vibes you give to people around you are going to be working against you, working against your brand, and working against you staying relevant in the new world. So keeping that positivity and focusing on what can be done versus what cannot be done is very, very important at this time of our life. The fourth thing is, show courage. It's very easy to say that I'm going to stay positive, and I know I'm not alone, and I want to learn. But no learning can happen unless there is discomfort. The best learning happens when we realize that we don't know something. And that's not a good feeling, right? It makes us very vulnerable. But in great moments of vulnerability lies great moments of creativity, lies great moments of thinking differently. And that means your ability to pull yourself up, stand up, show up, and say, I will give it a try. That talks about courage. That talks about taking people around you with you. And that talks about lifting others by being empathetic to what's happening around you, but also being empathetic to what's happening to you. So the fourth thing that we can do to build a brand which you will be proud of, which corporates and organizations would love to get added as a skill, as an attitude in their midst, would be showing courage. The fifth one, which I think is very, very important, is find your Ikigai. It is a Japanese concept and there's a book on it. If you want to read about it, you must. But it is all about finding your purpose. What gets you out of your bed every day? What is the reason of your being? And it's an answer to 4 simple questions. What do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need from you? And how can you get paid for it, right? So what can you get paid for? So when the 4 things come together, the answer for these 4, when it converges, is a beautiful Venn diagram, which pretty much is the reason, the purpose of your being. And if you can find your Ikigai, probably your ability to make sure that you constantly look at that true north that gets you out of the bed and gets you going on a Monday morning for your work, or gets you going, and if you're a student right now, gets you going to say, I know it's tough out there. I know the market's all over the place. And I know jobs are not the way I thought they would be a year back. But if I know my purpose, if I have clarity of what is it that I love, what is it that is my passion, what is it that I could get paid for in the current reality, and I can adjust myself and I can be open to it, the higher the probability of you finding your meaning, your happiness, and probably earn in the process. So wrapping up, as an HR professional, as we help our organizations reset themselves, as we help our organization to rethink their learning strategy, their training strategy, their strategy to recruit, acquire talent, and fundamentally get performance in line to what are the business objectives in the new system or the new setup, it's important for you to enable and force and encourage. So reimagine your talent strategy while keeping in mind these 3 aspects, but enable that fluid talent pool. Make sure you invest in careers and make sure you find means, new creative means to practice inclusion and practice collaboration to get your business results. And as a professional, as somebody who has to reset their own personal brand and centering, it's important for you to accept the new reality, learn new skills, stay positive, show courage, lift others along with you, and find your reason of being. So with that, let me pause now on a statement that I saw actually on television a few days back. I was seeing a travel and living channel, and this statement came up, and I think it was so true and it was so relevant to our world today, and I personally was touched. So I thought it's important for me to share with you as well. Every journey has a secret destination the traveler does not know about, and you should be okay and accepting of what comes your way. But if you can define your brand of courage, of inclusion, of positivity, of being clear what matters to you the most, and if you can take people along with you, and as an HR professional, inspire your leaders to balance this 2-street world in such a way that you are encouraging your people, you are enabling your people, and most importantly, driving the few things that matter, probably you'll be far more successful, and probably you will attract far more smart people to come and join you in your organization to get your business objectives and business goals achieved. So with that, I'll stop, and Nimisha, we can have some questions. I know we lost a few minutes here and there for my logistical issues, so my apologies for that. But I'm happy to take a few questions and clarify my perspective if needed. Otherwise, I'm happy to catch up with you. I'm on LinkedIn, pretty active. You can connect with me over there, or you can drop in a note to me at shalu.manan@gmail.com. But let me take a few questions if time permits, Nimisha.
Yes, ma'am. And I think in this virtual environment, we need to just accept that these things can happen. And thank you, ma'am, for such an insightful session. And sorry to all the delegates for the inconvenience that is caused. We shall now move to the Q&A session. I request the delegates to please raise their hands to ask their questions while I take up a few questions from the questions tab.
Yeah, sure. I've stopped sharing. Can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I was like, oh my God, I did something again.
So, ma'am, we have our first question from Dr. Vandana Sonwane, the Director of Symbiosis Institute of Operations Management. Her question is, companies have long lost hire to retire approach. how would companies like Genpact manage fluidity in their workforce? Will it be skill-based gig engagements? What hiring strategies do we foresee?
Okay. I want to share my experience beyond Genpact. So I've seen some great organizations do some great practices. Some of them are led by Genpact. So me being part of Genpact, obviously, I'm going to refer to them a lot. So I think the best thing about the current scenario is the fact that you can focus on few and yet critical things. So what matters to us at the end of the day? You got to staff right people at the right time, at the right cost, and make sure that they are skilled to do the job in the best possible manner, right? At the end of the day, it's all about results. A couple of things that companies like Genpact are doing. I won't say necessarily just my organization, and I'm not an authorized representative of Genpact to claim what we do. But what I would say from my experience and observation that some of the great practices one would do is, one, adopt technology like nobody's business. I have seen great organizations use technology to do video interviewing, to do assessments over a virtual setup, really not calling anybody together in one place, and yet setting up webinars like these, where Zoom has become like a great technology. It allows you to get people together, break them into small rooms, run conversations parallelly. There is such amazing technology out there to run screening on technical aspects as well as functional aspects. So use technology. That is going to be one single most defining factor in streamlining and completely reimagining your talent acquisition strategy. Let's face it, with the business opening up, work is there. It's not as if work is not there. Of course, we have seen slowdown. Of course, in some areas where the work was intensive on physically connecting with people and reaching out and getting work done, so being in a factory and getting production done, obviously there is a setback that we are seeing in that industry. In services industry, on the other hand, from an acquisition standpoint, as new work is coming our way, we are able to realize that we can get work going in a virtual setup pretty much independently. And I have seen in my organization, our acquisition team has done an amazing job. And we've been on this journey for some time. So thankfully, our organization was on a digital transformation journey for the last 5 years. And when this happened, we were able to pretty much overnight switch gears and pretty much do walk-ins. So to say, the walk-ins and job fairs in a digital format. And you know what? The best part is this, that the candidate experience just enormously improved. Because imagine
In the interest of time, we will be ending this situation. Now, this session will be ending here now, and you can ask her questions on her LinkedIn, and you can connect there. Thank you all for your questions. We will now go back to the social lounge for 10 minutes, where you can take a break and network with each other.
Nimisha, I'm sorry, I got kicked out of the air meet for some reason again. I guess everything that can go wrong is going wrong today. So my apologies, but what do you want to do next? Maybe I'll type answers now instead of doing it on this live chat.
Ma'am, actually, we will be ending the session now, and we have some questions for you in the questions tab. We will pass them on to you, and surely you can give the answers for them. But for now, in the interest of time, we need to end the session.
I'm fine. Thank you very much, everyone. My apologies. I don't think this has been the best of my sessions technologically, but glad to connect with all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Interning at Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited was a great learning experience for me. Pursuing an MBA in operation and the fantastic work culture at HPCL helped me learn a lot about the intricacies of the oil and gas industry and its daily operations. I had a lot on my plate to look forward to. A few of the many skills that I learned there were people management skills, interpersonal skills, and I got a different perspective towards problem solving. It gave me the room to explore new ideas and be creative. SIOM has given me with the just right platform to help me grow as an individual during the course of my project and then finally grab a full-time employment with my dream company, Novartis.
Coming from an IT background, at SIM, I got a perfect platform to leverage my IT skills in the field of operations and supply chain management. I did my summer internship at Bosch Limited, where I worked on the latest happenings in supply chain space, such as logistics optimization and supply chain 4.0. The enriching experience in Bosch helped me in diversifying my profile. At SIM, I got a perfect blend of industry-related curriculum along with people management skills. This institute not only helped me in owning my management skills, but also gave me a perfect platform to nurture my creativity.
SIOM provided me with an opportunity to do my summer internship at Swiggy, one of the fastest growing food tech companies in India. Interning with Swiggy helped me to understand the operations of e-commerce hyperlocal market and apply my knowledge and skills to solve real-life business problems. The experience played an important role in making me understand the working of businesses at strategic, tactical, and operational level. My work, dedication, and learnings at SIOM helped me back the PPO at Swiggy.
Before getting into a management school, I've had my doubts with respect to opportunities for freshers. But SIOM cleared the smoke for me. It provides equal platform for both freshers and laterals. The focused curriculum of SIOM, the classroom discussions, the peer-to-peer knowledge sharing opportunities, and the case study competitions helped me build a strong base in operations management and rise to my aspiration. This rewarded my rigor with an internship offer at General Electric. My time at General Electric gave me the experience of leadership and application of theories of Lean and Six Sigma to practical problems to find solutions. With such experiences, SIOM served as a change agent for my holistic development.
Coming from R&D background, I was always sure that I want to work with an organization that can give me operational learning in an enriching culture. SIOM provided me the platform to learn from different industry experts through guest lectures, seminars, and trainings. The curriculum at SIOM helped me to understand the concepts, strengthen my basics, and shape my skills to be well suited for an esteemed organization, Godrej & Boyce.
SIOM was the perfect choice for me after working for 2 years in power industry. The best part here is that the curriculum is highly diverse, industry relevant, and along with academic knowledge, it ensures multidimensional growth of an individual. I realized this during my internship with GE, and my project there helped me showcase the abilities that I have during the final placements, where I got through one of the most sought after consulting companies, Deloitte USA.
One of the key reasons to leave a fulfilling career and pursue an MBA in operations management is to truly understand how different cogs collaborate together in companies to create competitive advantages, especially at scale. The exposure that SIOM has offered me to concepts through case studies, classroom discussions, and competitions has been phenomenal. SIOM also gave me the opportunity to pursue a semester abroad program in Leeds Beckett University, United Kingdom, which helped me augment my thought process by learning in an interactional setup. During my time in UK, I was able to truly appreciate the strong foundation that SIOM instills in its students, which enabled me to gain an edge over my peers across the world.
Having worked in a construction industry, operations management was a perfect fit as a post-graduation, and SIM proved a worthwhile choice. Apart from the mandatory subjects like operations management, Lean, Six Sigma, SIM has laid a very strong foundations of financial management, human resource management, and marketing management. I got to understand the whole gamut of supply chain, ranging from operations planning, scheduling, and control to supply chain modeling and analytics. I got a chance to intern with a leading FMCG company where I worked over the risk assessment of raw materials. The learnings from there helped me to understand and answering the questions that I faced during my interview of the company of my dream, that is KPMG.
Working in new product development wing of a global consumer durable company, I realized that an efficient supply chain and operation strategy
Welcome back to the second keynote session of the fifth episode of Digital HR Summit 2020. I hope you were able to digitally network among yourselves. Let me introduce our next keynote speaker, Mr. Ajay Kumar, who will be sharing his views on the topic New World Order, the Corporate Renaissance. Mr. Ajay Kumar is the head of Human Relations, Continental India, and comes with over 2 decades of experience in human resource management. In his current role, Mr. Ajay overlooks the strategic HR role for continental growth markets in India. In his previous roles, he was associated with leading organizations such as Bosch, L&T, Cipla, and has exposure in different industries like automotive, manufacturing, and technology. He has several prestigious HR leadership awards to his credit from organizations such as World HRD Congress, Business India, and Economic Times. This session will again consist of 20 minutes of keynote speech that will be followed by 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A session. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Nimisha. It's my pleasure to be here. Not sure the screen is visible or do I need to do something extra?
Sir, you are not actually sharing anything for now.
Which I am visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but that is not good enough. I want to show some couple of slides.
We can see your screen, sir.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
But unfortunately, I'm not able to see my screen just to keep a control on the slides.
So just try sharing once again. So we can see your screen. You just need to open your presentation.
Okay, can you see that now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I need to enlarge the screen or all well? Can I go ahead?
Sir, if it's possible, please try enlarging it, maybe the slideshow. Otherwise, this will work. Yes, sir, it's better.
Okay, good. I think I have already lost a couple of minutes in this topic. So thank you very much for team SIOM for having me in this discussion. So for me, the screen, I'm not able to see anything other than the slide. So maybe I'm not so very familiar with this new tool of sharing the slides. So, but as long as you are able to see and view, I'm perfectly fine. So first of all, as I said, thank you very much for having me here. And the topic which I have been asked to share my thoughts is on the new world order, the uh, the renaissance that is happening, already started happening, or will continue to happen in the corporate world. I assume the participants of this forum is largely students from the college. Therefore, I I don't intend to get into too much of details in terms of the depth part of the whole scenario, but primarily because of two reasons. One is in terms of this topic is quite big in size. One full day may not be good enough for us to get into details and get a complete view about it. But however, I will try to do justice to that. That is one. Second aspect is from a student's perspective, from a students in the sense to be employees perspective. You may have to get into not in terms of what kind of changes you have to practice, but more in terms of understanding the ecosystem, which will be waiting for you once you have the license to work after completion of your current education. So let me start with the disruption, or rather, I would try to uh, segment this 20-25 minutes of discussion into three different segments. First one is to give you a very high level helicopter view about the disruption that is being created. I'm sure you would have heard this message from very many, but just to set the context for my topic, I will spend very few seconds on that. Second thing is the impact it is creating in the social as well as the social life as well as in the finance, business, commercial part of the world. The third aspect is, and the most important, the essence of my topic will be the kind of changes which are happening in the ecosystem of corporations across the world, but with a special focus towards India. So let me start with a small example of disruption. In a pre-March scenario, in the sense, before the corona came into existence into our own world, which was very peaceful in the past, now got completely changed. What would have happened if I were to come and talk to the students from SIOM? It was very prescribed in the sense I have to catch a taxi from wherever I am in Bangalore. It will take maybe around couple of hours of if it is off-peak season, I will spend 2 hours to reach Bangalore airport. From there, I'll get into a flight which will take another 2 hours towards Mumbai. From there, another 3 to 4 hours of drive to Nasik. So we are talking about 8 to 10 hours of drive just to reach SIOM Nasik. And after having an hour of interaction with you, I have to take a U-turn and spend another 10 to 12 hours of journey. It means that typically around 25 hours I would have spent to have a similar kind of interaction. And now with a similar kind of effectiveness and engagement, we are able to do the same job with very less amount of time. It means the world wants more with less. And that is a new world. That is a world which is getting emerged. If I were to define the new world order, it is nothing but the world wants more for less. With that, let me take you through a new aspect called social recession. All this while, the whole world were talking more in terms of what is the impact which Corona or this COVID is creating into the corporate, financial, commercial, and business part of the world. But if you look at a big time recession is happening in parallel in the social life of everyone. And when I say everyone, that includes not only the human beings, even all the animals which are residing in this planet are also getting impacted, not directly but indirectly. So if I were to give a very, very short summary in terms of what are the changes, big time changes. All this while we have been hearing, talking, listening to the story called VUCA. This has been in the air since very many years, that every single forum, every single conference will have word which is on the table of discussion. VUCA, volatile. We are in a world which is extremely volatile, highly uncertain, and extremely complex and ambiguous, and all those kind of things. Now, what is happening? This VUCA has entered very, very successfully into the personal life of everybody. We are not sure when this current insecurity will get away from us. We are not sure what is next for us. We are not sure. So there is a lot of uncertainty, or rather, I would say, collection of answers which are waiting for, collection of questions which are waiting for answer. Right. Similarly, the freedom to act. Recently, all of us celebrated our India's independence, 74th anniversary, 74th independence. What happened on that day? Were we celebrating independence, or we were not having any freedom? We were not doing the celebration the way in which we used to do till last year. And did we lose the freedom, or did we gain the freedom now? And if I were to summarize, we are the people who just do not have any freedom to act, and we are governed by what we are not supposed to do. And then there is a set of do's and don'ts which is there. And similarly, human being, a social animal, we are highly interdependent between family members, interdependent between family to family, relatives, friends, and social circle, and so on. Now, this is a strength of human being. But today, every such interdependence is remote, right? And that reduces beauty of life, beauty of relationship, and beauty of this value of interdependence as well. And then today, everything is virtual. If you have to entertain yourself, if you want to have a movie, or if you want to work, and if you want to, as simple as go and meet a doctor for any sickness, what you have to be depending upon virtual. The world has completely changed. And the last part is cost conscious. Because of this uncertainty, what we are experiencing every day, people are more cautious in terms of why should I spend? Can I reserve it for future? Which is good, but at the same time, it is actually paralyzing the whole economy. Everybody is postponing every single postponable expenditure to tomorrow, making the transactions, commercial transactions, economic transactions to be kind of standstill. Which means what? Which means actually the whole world is moving towards a slowness. With that background, let me give a high level view in terms of what is the impact the current crisis has already created. Let's start with the first topic, global economy. All the indications, you would have seen this report from very different agencies, whether it is an IMF, whether it is a global World Bank, or different other expert agencies. Different agencies are giving different sharing different predictions. And if I were to go as per the International Monetary Fund prediction, by end of the year, the whole world economy will get contracted by 9 point percentage, which is a massive scale. 9% means approximately, currently it's around 87 trillion US dollar economy. The world economy is 9% is approximately 8 to 9 trillion. And what is 8 to 9 trillion USD? Just for you to get connected with that kind of volume, or the magnitude of, or the kind of impact which the world is seeing or likely to see in the months to come. India economy is around little less than 2.94 kind of a trillion. And then and despite the fact that India is the fifth largest economy in the whole world, and then it means that 3 Indian economies together is going to be wiped off in terms of the absolute value loss the recession is creating. And then similarly, if you look at Indian economy in isolation, all these years we have been consistently growing. I would say last 10 to 12 years, India economy is growing for more prosperity, more expansion and then move towards top 5 economies of the world. And in the next 5 years, it was expected to be among the top 3 after US and China. Now, what is happening? The disruption has actually derailed our growth plan to a large extent, and we do not know the real impact. As of now, in comparison with our last year growth of around 6 to 6.5%, the expected growth is almost half of what our last year's track record was. So it's all matter of worry. So the disruptions are, that is where I would like to call the current disruption or current recession is the mother of all disruptions or the biggest ever recession that can have an impact. Now let's talk about one of the important sector, that is the mobility sector or the automobile sector of India. Why I'm choosing this sector is one is, of course, I am associated with this chosen field of profession, that is automobile, for the last 12 years. So I will be able to give some additional information about it. And second aspect is that in a manner of speaking, automobile sector is the lifeline for India economy as well as for employment. So close to around 7.5% of India's gross domestic product (GDP) is getting contributed by this sector. And if you look at the manufacturing sector, which is around 17.5%, 50% of that is coming from automobile. Now look at the impact, what you're able to see onto the screen. And on top of that, if I were to give you another indicative number, which will be of interesting to the HR professional, close to 37 million people are being engaged by this sector directly or indirectly. So any small turbulence in this sector can have a massive impact in the whole ecosystem of India economy, India social life, and so on. So if you look at the kind of what I said is about the contribution or in impact, if I look at last 3 years of performance of this sector, in the year 2017, this sector has manufactured around 4.35 million vehicles. When I say vehicles, it does not include the two-wheeler, I'm talking about the four-wheelers, the passenger cars. 2017 have seen 4.35 new cars got launched by India automobile sector. And in the year 2018, it has substantially increased to 4.73 million. 4.73 million got released by this sector from India, which was the best year for this sector in its history. Unfortunately, the year 2019, the last year, there was a dip to close to 4 million. And today, as we are talking 2020, there's a massive dip. It's almost half of the 2018 standard. What does it mean? It means that it's a disaster which is in making, and then that is largely because of one of the factors, what I said earlier, the postponable expenditures are getting deferred, and people prefer not to buy a car today, but rather reserve that money for any contingency activities if there is a job loss or any other risk mitigation plan. So this is getting affected by majority of the other sectors. It is not restricted only to the mobility sector, but very many other sectors. Now, from these 2.68 million cars, if we were to go back to the 2018 standard, you can see outer years, I'm talking about 2025, it will take minimum 5 years to reach almost near to that. Minimum 5 years, which is a pretty long period for us to recover and then get back to our best time. In a manner of speaking, this sector is actually pushed back to 11 to 12 years backward. 2008, 2009 was the time where we have manufactured so many cars. So just to let you know the impact of the disruption that has created by the current crisis. So this is the first segment. I wanted to set the context in terms of the volume of impact which it has created. Now from this, let me move on to my essence of my presentation. I'm not sure, Nimisha, you can give me a hint if I'm crossing my timeline so that I can speed up. So as far as corporate ecosystem is concerned, I'm sure this is theoretical slide. What you would appreciate the fact that every single business, small or big, established or a startup unit in any business, will have essentially 5 different stakeholders. And many a times there is always a confusion in terms of who is more important, and it's all matter of convenience in terms of claiming who's most important. So I'll take you through what does it actually means. And then when I say who is more important, it's a game of dynamism, or in a certain direct language, the politics. Okay, each one of us are also familiarized with the politics, right? In fact, if I were to ask you, because you are yet to join a corporation, and then therefore, if I were to ask you when did you start learning politics, or rather, the seeding of politics in our mind would have happened when you were a child, wherein your parents or father or mother would have asked this question: whom do you love most, father or mother? Despite, and then there is another conditions to giving that answer, saying that you have to pick only one, not both. And then what does it actually mean? Does not, or rather, disregarding the specific role or department both the father and mother has to manage, we make the child to say that, yeah, this is my preference. In a similar way, if I were to say, out of these five stakeholders, whether it is investor, customer, government, or the local bodies, supplier, and employee, everyone has its own importance. For example, without investor, how do you get the fund to run the business? And customer is the king, because of whom the business has to keep running. Government, who has the authority to put regulations that can make or break any business or any commercial activities. Supplier, whose output will be our input for us to process towards output for our end customer. Employee, so many a times we keep hearing that employee first, rest come next. But factually speaking, every single stakeholder is very, very important in its own rights, in its own role. So I'm going to take you through in the next slide in terms of what is the major disruptions that are happening in these, in thinking of these stakeholders. As I said earlier, investors. Investor is somebody who fund for business to run, business to spend, business to invest in terms of R&D, in terms of the whole ecosystem, to build that kind of a network, build that kind of an infrastructure to start the business and run the business for progression. And every organization always wish to be investors' darling. In the sense, the most preferred destination to put my hard-earned money. Now, what is going to happen in the future? In the current disruptive time is every investor, they will look for how fast they can get their money back with returns, and that too considerable returns. And so one is the predictability of their money getting doubled or increased, or how fast, because no investor will take risk. And to that extent, you will find every investor will be getting involved into the activities or the strategy of the business, so that they can do the course correction, so that whenever it is needed, rather than getting shocked or surprised by the outcome at the end of the journey. And you will find in the current scenario also, if you, those of you who are familiar with the share market, I'm talking about the Sensex and so on. Yesterday we knew, if you see a news that you go and invest money in, let's say, HDFC Bank, we just spend whatever money there, and then within 2 days we start tracking. If the result is not positively progressing towards higher return, you withdraw and then move on. It means that the shelf life of your connection or the loyalty with those kind of investment destination will always be questioned. It is not that I invest and forget, but rather I invest and I track. Therefore, high return, limited loyalty, as long as I get the results out of my investment, and then I would like to participate in the decisions what this company is going to do. These are the kind of hallmarks which you are going to be experiencing from an investor perspective. So now let me move on to the next sector, that is next key stakeholder, customer. We have been hearing customer is the king, because of whom the business has to run, and take care of the customer in such a way that repeat customer, and then getting a new customer is always difficult. Make sure that the customer is retained, and so on and so forth. Finally, what is the new change which is going to happen because of the disruption? What the whole world is experiencing? First one is they want more with less. Every customer look for more in terms of the quality, more in terms of the speed, more in terms of the overall fitment of their expectations managed by the service provider. I'm more talking from a B2B kind of a situation, not B2C. And customer will look for the supplier to be making sure customer is success, rather than just not customer temporary satisfaction, or so to say, we used to call it as customer satisfaction or customer delight. It is the supplier's responsibility to make sure that customer is successful because of the efforts or the services of the supplier. It also means that they will they will also have a limited kind of a connection. If they are not happy with the service the service being provided by the supplier, they will look for options which are better. In my career, in my service, I have not seen a single customer coming to us any time in the past saying that you're so very good, your company is so very good, please increase the price, or your product is so wonderful, please reduce the quality. It never happens. They always want more, but in the current scenario, it is expected to be far more higher. With that background, let me go to the government third. Now, when I say all these 5 different sectors, I'm not giving in any specific importance. So don't assume that the last one is least important and so on. Everyone has its own importance. Government. You would have seen in the recent crisis, government is doing some amount of intervention to support those companies which are struggling. Okay, a couple of examples if I were to give. During the last 4 to 5 months time, government announced those small organizations which are having less than 100 people, their employees' provident fund contributions will be sponsored by the government. And similarly, one other intervention which you would have noticed, that percentage of contribution towards PF by the employee and employer can be reduced from 12 towards 10, a massive 2% reduction. Right? These are all, I would say, revolutionary steps which government has taken to support the organization so that they will continue to have that kind of financial health to manage the crisis. And then we also have seen recently the corporate tax got reduced significantly, especially the higher percentage of reduction that has happened for the new organization that are into manufacturing, especially for local kind of market focus. So all these measures government has taken just to make sure that they support the organization to tide over or to sail through these kind of a difficult times. So once this is over, or once the normalcy is established, or one certain amount of stability has reached, government will continue to focus towards ensuring certain defining certain amount of discipline, so that they may not be able to give the complete freedom to some smaller organizations, so that they continue to stay healthy as well as focused in their business. The next aspect is supplier. Supplier is a replication of customer. Supplier's responsibility is to make sure that their customer is a success, rather than I did my part of the job and then that's all about it. The definition of supply chain management is going to be completely undergoing a change in the years to come, so that their stake. I can give a short example from the recent past, not very recent past, but little earlier. I'm sure you would have heard of the APSRTC story. Those of you have heard, please tolerate at the cost of repetition. It's quite interesting for me to always connect with that example. Wherein when I say APSRTC, Andhra Pradesh Road Transport Corporation, this has happened even before the Andhra Pradesh got split into 2 different states between AP as well as Telangana. One of the largest public transport carrier was APSRTC, which was around, I don't exactly remember the number, maybe around 82,000 buses and lakhs, close to 8.2 million passengers every day, and then close to very many miles, lakhs of miles to be carried. So that's the kind of volume of activities, and the very biggest challenge was the accident rate. The accident rate for which was caused by APSRTC, which was actually questioning the sanity of using that public transport. In the absence of any other reliable public transport system, the APSRTC continued to be successful. The corporation sat together, and then normally any corporation would have looked for options like, okay, give additional training to the drivers, or incentivize those drivers who cause minimum or zero accidents, or put some additional restrictions, and so on and so forth. But after a detailed deliberation, what they have announced was quite interesting, saying that every single driver, while getting into the steering, should put a family picture just on the cluster. A family picture. What was the intent? To communicate to the driver, saying that There is somebody waiting at your home when you complete your task today, when you complete the job of the day today. And this one small step has made massive difference. The percentage of accident got reduced by massive 90%. And it's a fact. And it's a real fact. So finally, who is a supplier? There is a win-win situation for the government, for the corporation, not the government, the corporation who was managing the road transport corporation, and the drivers, because drivers also gets impacted by any accident. They are the first to get impacted rather. And the travelers. The massive changes that has happened. This is a classic story of a win-win-win situation, and then thereby suppliers stand to gain a lot. Now, from that example, let me move to the employees.
So, in the interest of time, I would just like to say that we have 5 more minutes.
Okay, sure. I'll speed up. So the employee is the key stakeholder, which is going to be experiencing massive changes. First change is going to be the kind of employment model itself, which you would have heard. So I don't want to get into the details, but more importantly, as the whole world of employment is working from home, the advantage of working in major cities. For example, those people who are working in a city like Pune or in a city like Nasik, despite the fact that they are doing the same job, there is always a salary difference which is experienced by the corporate world. It is not only to one particular location, but it's a global phenomenon. Will that be continued? We are not sure. Similarly, in the past, if an HR guy approached a candidate for a job change, the first question would have been, okay, where is his job based at? Will it be California? Will it be based out of London? Or will it be based out of Berlin or in another city? If you say that it's another city in India, the question, no, I'm not interested in a job because I would like to be in the same location. But today, all this will get disrupted. People can work from anywhere for any kind of company, so location doesn't matter. Similarly, some other changes I can keep share the list of my expected changes for employees. But if I were to give a high level thing, one is in terms of compensation strategy. Okay, there will be massive changes in terms of the strategy of fixing the salary right from the beginning of appointment onwards, the performance appraisal cycle, and so on. So on. In the past, at the end of the year, there used to be a performance appraisal based on the performance rating, what you get, whether it's outstanding or excellent or acceptable or good. The salary will get revised. Going forward, there will be an absolute de-linkage between the salary as well as appraisal. Appraisal will continue to happen to evaluate the contributions and opportunities for improvements and so on, but the compensation will be largely influenced by the value that employee is going to be contributing to the business. So that way, things will get changed. Similarly, leadership. Now, in the remote working model, everybody is a leader. It's all leading by self. So obviously, the role of manager or leaders will be largely getting transitioned into more of inspiring and coaching rather than a supervising and controlling kind of responsibilities. It also means that the pyramid structure of organizations will undergo a massive change in terms of making it a little more flat rather than the previous pyramid model, and the culture will get changed. So overall, there will be a massive disruption which is expected to be happening in the for employee experience as well. I think this should be my last couple of slides. So what we said was these are the 5 different stakeholders will undergo massive changes in terms of experience, expectations, and their ability to contribute and take part in the whole thing. But in the years to come, if the organization has to survive and grow, basic thing is to survive and then continue to grow for prosperity. The most important license to go for that is openness and transparency. Transparency among the stakeholders, transparency within the stakeholders, and the transparency lead to trust and mutual trust, and trust will lead to collaboration, which will eventually guarantee or predict good amount of results. We have seen the world in the past. For example, in the years 1930s and before, the average shelf life of any corporation, at least in those years, used to be around 75 years. And today, it has got shrunk to almost around 17 to 18 years. And it is only coming down. And that is largely because of lack of transparency as well as collaborative coexistence of stakeholders. And since I am coming from an organization which is stable, where I can very proudly give an example that our organization, Continental Corporation globally, which will be celebrating our 150th years of our existence and growth, 1871 we started. If I were to do the time machine backward towards those years and then look around, not only our competition but the peers in the business or any business, 99% of our neighbors got disappeared from the business, and we are there. So this is a classic example. And similarly, if I were to give you another factual example, most of you would have heard of this Fortune 500 and then top level successful organizations of the world and so on. In the year 1995, I'm talking about 25 years ago, if you refer to the Fortune 500 list, Fortune 500 means 500 top successful organizations of business during those years. And if you take that list and then compare that today, more than 90% of those companies got disappeared from, not from the list, from the business itself. So it all gives a direct indication saying that more and more close collaboration is the only factor, primary factor that will ensure success and sustenance. So with that, I end my discussion, my sharing of thoughts, and then I do not have any big amount of qualification with me to say that what you should be doing to get yourself, because I'm sure that you would have heard that with many of the industry colleagues already. So I don't wish to enter into that. But if I were to give you one point, we always say that I'm worried. If you're worried, don't worry. The whole world is worried now. The whole world is worried, and then in a relative comparison, you don't need to worry so much. The worry should be left to the people who have experienced in the world, because many a times. So if I were to give a definition of experience, there are two kinds of definition. One is those experience creates memories which will take you backward. The other one is memory that creates situational assertiveness so that you can adapt the changes. So if it all depends upon what kind of experience you carry. If you carry the first one, it will be difficult for that person to adapt and move on. So it all depends upon that. So overall, I would say that as students, you don't need to worry so much because you don't have baggage with you. You don't have an experience package with you. So you just need to come with an open mind so that start adopting, start being a part of this corporation, which is going to be bigger, better, and yeah, I think that's all from me. Sorry if I have exceeded my time, Nimisha. So that's all about it.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful session. My key takeaway was the impact of the corporate ecosystem on its key stakeholders are investors, customers, government, suppliers, and employees. We shall now move to the Q&A session. I request the delegates to please raise their hand to ask the questions, while I take up a few questions from the questions tab. We have our first question from Ms. Disha Gawade. She's a student of SIOM. She's asking, what are some of the workplace changes which leaders will need to lead their organizations through to be agile and future-proof?
Yeah, can you repeat the question again, Nimisha? I did not get the first part of that.
What are some of the workplace changes which leaders will need to lead their organizations through to be agile and future-proof?
Okay, so first thing is that, especially in the current scenario, every organization is going through certain amount of revamping the processes, right? Reinvention or reimagination of the whole processes is going to be the key, especially to identify what is that redundant task what we were doing, which is not effectively adding any value to our business. As I said, my own example, instead of traveling all the way to Nasik and then getting connected with the talents of Symbiosis, if I can do that from here and the students comfortably sitting wherever they are, so why we were not doing this, exploring this kind of a changes, disruptive changes? So the basic thing is questioning the status quo, bring changes that can make the organization to be more and more competitive, and that is applicable for every single stakeholder and more predominantly for leaders who is supposed to be the messengers of change.
Thank you for that answer, sir. I will now request the delegates to please post their questions in the live chat where Mr. Ajay can answer them while we progress ahead due to paucity of time and respecting everyone's time. Thank you so much for that session, sir. Now we'll be taking a break and go back to the social lounge for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my pleasure.
Welcome back to the panel discussion. I hope the networking break was engaging and valuable. Before diving into the session, I would like to thank our sponsors for the event. Outreach partner, Dare to Compete, magazine partner, Human Capital, Home Deco partner, The Moharaj, official gifting partner, The Soul Store, digital platform partner, Airmeet, knowledge partner, Novarex, event listing partner, NoahFest, and corporate gifting partner, The Good. Continuing on the learnings from the previous session, let us now further dive into the topic. Today's response is tomorrow's image with this panel discussion. Let me introduce to you Mr. Manish Bharadwaj. An HR leader with more than 2 decades of experience, Mr. Bharadwaj has held multiple roles in the HR domain in different sectors. An alumnus of SCM HRD, he is SHRM SCP certified and is currently leading the people strategy for new and existing markets, talent management, culture and capability for LATAM, APAC, ANZ and Africas at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. Our second panel speaker is Mr. Shivaditya Banerjee. Mr. Shivaditya has 13 years of rich experience in heading human resources. He is currently operational as the head HR of Piramal Pharma Solutions. He is an enthusiastic HR professional who brings out the best from his team. An XLRI alumnus, Shivaditya has experience in leading human resources from diverse industries like paint, yarn, and pharma. Our third panel speaker is Ms. Nidhi Dhanju. Ms. Nidhi is currently leading the organizational effectiveness practice that includes Comp and Ben, campus talent acquisition, talent management, and overall HR systems and processes at Thermax Ltd. Her professional journey started as a learning and organization development professional about 16 years ago, an avid traveler with a passion for people and purpose. Her core areas of work are in various facets of human resource development. Our fourth panel speaker is Mr. Praveen Voona. Thank you, ma'am. Our fourth panel speaker is Mr. Praveen Voona. Mr. Praveen Voona, currently the head of recruitment at Airbus, has been a passionate HR professional with expertise in areas like recruitment, payroll, labor compliance, and employment marketing. He has been associated with Airbus since 10 years and has worked with Mercedes-Benz Research and Development in the past. Mr. Voona has been a pioneer in bringing about innovative solutions to better attract, recruit, and retain young talent in India and at international level. This panel discussion will be moderated by Dr. Yashomandira Khade. Dr. Yashomandira is an assistant professor and head of corporate relations at SIOM with research interests in marketing and vocational training. She also spearheads the placement committee and oversees placement-related training for all the students at SIOM. She is a dedicated, flexible, and nurturing educator who is well qualified to provide the right motivation and direction to the students. With excellent communication, interpersonal, organizational, and leadership skills that enable her to interact with a wide range of individuals, Dr. Yashomandira is well equipped to face new challenges daily and successfully handle a variety of situations and challenges. She is conferred with the most innovative TPO awards by Golden AIM Awards for excellence and leadership in education in June 2020. This panel discussion will be of 30 minutes, post which the forum will be open for Q&A from the delegates. Now I'll request Dr. Yashomandira ma'am to please take over.
So thank you, Nimisha. I welcome all my co-panelist members. Without any further delay, I would just like to, start this panel discussion with some thought which just comes in the mind. A lot has been said, and a lot will be said about this new normal, or I term it as, the new abnormal. Behaviors and actions of individuals will be judged basis their ability to adapt and respond to the situation, while others will be in the judgment seat. But in my perspective, what will set the tone for the future for any business is the amicability between the workforce and the workplace. So we have panelists with us who will be sharing the top issues in the mind of all leaders which are going across today. So my first question to all the panelist members. So we'll first start with Manish and then it'll rotate up to the all three of you all. The first question to share to the panelists is, how has your organization responded to COVID-19 pandemic to ensure employee safety, managing relationships with clients and collaboration with industry leaders? Over to you, Manish.
Thanks. Thanks, Dr. Shumandera. And I do appreciate this kind of effort and the knowledge sharing piece and the portal which we are doing and speaking to each other. In the process, we also learn through what other company people are doing it. So thanks coming to the point what you have spoken of for this new normal or so-called new abnormal. This is the key, right? Because normal is no more normal. So in the normal, no is more relevant these days rather than the other piece of spelling. So coming to this business continuity plan, I think everybody in any organization would have spoken about it. They would have created a strategy to address this pandemic, which was non-envisaged, which was not so-called provisioned for in any of the finance or accounts or HR or management provisioning, which we always do in the budgeting exercise for the year. That has created a sudden knee-jerk to some pieces and a planned reaction to many organizations where, for example, when we were talking about as an organization, we were talking about digitizing ourselves in different fields, different forums, say HR or manufacturing or supply chain or even marketing and sales. So that was a constant plan moving around with a normal pace. We were slightly ahead of the curve from other companies. We are proud to feel good on that. But that sped us, this COVID sped it up. It was like when we are running at a 40, 50 kind of a calm scenic zone, it had to be sped up to 100, maybe 120 kind of a speed. And it was like crazy. We were all running helter-skelter. First thing was to create a business continuity plan for all functions, more or less. Second was again giving an opportunity to HR teams to come in front and lead the pace. So I think that is very fortunate for HR leaders and HR fraternity as such, that this gave an opportunity to lead the business and even the strategy towards this piece. And second aspect other than business was about how we tackle and how we address people needs. So when we say people need, it's more on professional and emotional, because suddenly from office space, we were crouching into their personal spaces. Work from home created a window where you can hear and see and a lot many things which you are not seeing. And it was creating initially kind of an embarrassment to people. Oh, so many things are visible and so much noise is coming around. So we had to literally, we have to convey regular messages that this is fine. This is the so-called new normal. In offices also we do listen many things, but that's a different noise. This is a different noise. We are accepting it. Don't feel shy or embarrassing about it. So that was one of the key things which we did. Another key things, Professor, we worked upon was about creating a stepwise ERT or ERP, emergency response plan, which helped us very closely and very significantly in case of any identified positive cases in the organization or in the location. Since I work with around 15 countries, so each country we were working and getting the documented and signed off ERP, which was more to do with how we will work and how the organization is liable to follow the government mandates, rather government orders or guidelines. So that was created and circulated to each and every employee last in the chain. And at any point of time, everybody, I can take a liberty of saying that everybody was well aware of what is to be done in case such a thing comes up or is visible. So to take the second point further, we were also talking about communication on a very regular basis. So almost every week we were having these calls for all the team members, all country leads, and all people who are in that particular organization in the country by senior members. So that was like not a business review. It was more like, how is it going? Are you feeling comfortable? Is there any need or not? So that was more of an employee touch point, right? So with this, I'll take a pause here, Professor, because I know there are 2 or 3 more my friends who want to speak on it, and I want to leave something for them.
Over to you, Shivaditya, about your views on it.
Sure, Doctor. So first of all, thanks Nimisha for that warm welcome in the beginning, and Manish has actually set a nice context. In fact, he's spoken about most things that most of the organizations have done, because ultimately we'll have to realize that human resources works on principles. As long as those principles are intact and they stand the test of time, the actions emanate from there only. I'll just give you a slightly big picture here, and we are a contract manufacturing setup, and we make on behalf of large pharma organizations and biotech organizations. So I think one important thing is that reaching the consumer, who in our case happens to be this large pharma, has been one challenge, and that's one thing around which we have created a cross-functional team in place. So we have a lot of projects in-house: Project Triumph, Project Symphony, Project Elixir, and these are interesting cross-functional teams which are trying to come up with creative and innovative solutions to some of these problems, because the need of the hour is to think differently. You cannot do the same effort in the same direction like you used to do and expect that results would come your way, because the scene is dynamic around. So we need to be agile, we need to be making quick decisions. So I think that is one. So I think reaching out consumers, we are a very highly regulated industry, pharma. So how you do audits, how do you set up audits on a virtual platform and do it seamlessly is also one thing. So I think digital also, which we are using for collaboration, reaching out to consumers, the customers in our case. And second, I think employee safety, the social distancing piece is very important in our factories. For us to really do well, our factories have to have people coming in. And, so social distancing in canteens, buses, in the workplace, sanitization, I think setting up protocols and following it consistently is important. A lot of communication can happen at this time, but it has to be appended with a lot of action on the ground. Otherwise it's just empty talk. And we are speaking about communication. It is important for people who are working from home. And there also, I always keep on saying that, we need to empathize with people, but we never should patronize people. We are not fathers of our employees. Employees can see the fact for what it is, and they can find solutions to their problems. We never underestimate the ability of employees to find solutions to his own problems, and that's how it is going to be. So you'll have to have a strong radar on performance. At the end of the day, pharma is not there only to reduce the burden of disease, but also for economic revival of the industry. We are being looked at, and there's much more responsiveness, responsibility, and dutifulness that we need to demonstrate at this point. So I think communication, agile decision making, actioning, employee safety, reaching the consumers differently, digital. These are few elements that we've seen a change in.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Over to you, Nidhi. We would like to know your views on this question.
Hi, a very good afternoon to everyone, and thanks. I'm sorry I cannot switch on my video. There are some bandwidth issues. So I think my colleagues have already spoken about digitalization being extremely important. Now we are a large boilers B2B company, boilers heaters company as Thermax. And some of the things, and of course, communication is the key. A couple of other things that my colleagues have already spoken about in terms of digitalization. In context of digitalization, it has become so important to be agile, meaning that you actually just change your strategy based on what you can see or cannot see. So I'll give you an example. We just commissioned a large boiler in Egypt sitting in Pune. How do you make that happen? How do you make an agile workforce happen? How do you make sure they have the infrastructure sitting right here in Pune? It wasn't even thought. It was impossible to guess about 7 months ago, although we were working on a smart technology, but we just sort of accelerated the whole process. how do you, we actually curtailed our downtime in a company in Sri Lanka, sitting right here again using smart systems in Pune. So the whole point is, how do you make your workforce extremely agile and adaptable? That's the need that's going to be extremely important today. The other thing is, how do you, as HR professionals, make sure that your teams are geared towards working in distributed formats? They are going to be spread, and we are spread all across the country and continents. And how do you still maintain that engagement, that connect, that aspiration, that bond with the organization, throughout? And I don't think so this is anyways going to go. I mean, WHO health chief is saying it's going to take 2 years to come back to the normal, the old normal. So I think this is it. This is what the normal is, and how do you cope with it? I'll stop here, and I know I await more questions and a great interaction. Thank you.
Over to you, Praveen. Some quick thoughts.
I come from a very different industry, which is the aerospace industry. However, in continuation to of what Manish, Shiva, and Nidhi has spoken, for us, communication was the key player here, because it was very important, because lots of news coming in from various sources and all, it's quite disturbing for people. So what we had is to ensure that we had town hall scheduled not only locally within the departments, or also on the specific domains within the globally also. Okay, and also there were special initiatives taken, which may be worth mentioning. Small examples, like one of the things which I would want to share here is an executive from the management committee, it can be a COO or so, would be calling an employee, randomly every day, 2 or 3 employees, to check on their well-being and how things are working on. And these things have made quite a good change. And to it keeps the employees' trust and the motivation level up. Okay. And second thing is, what we have done is we have focused a lot on the IT infrastructure part, because we say, okay, you get work from home, but what are we doing for that? So we have completely relied and have gone through a good digital transformation by using techniques like virtual computing and so on and so forth, and so that the employee have a seamless experience. Everyone is talking about VDI and thin client and so on. So these are a couple of things which we have done in the safety of employees, and including the special telecounseling, again re-emphasizing for the fact that it's okay, this is how things are, and a lot of one-to-one interactions have been created a good impact.
Great. Yeah. So moving on to the second question, we'll start with Shivaditya, first with you. What are your top priorities, as you go ahead amid this pandemic? And the second part to this question is, how do you envision the future of the industry which you work, given that this pandemic is still pledging its wing across several countries?
So, Doctor, this is a very deep question, and I'm happy you're asking these kind of questions, so that it also gives us an opportunity to structure our own thoughts. Because frankly, I can tell you that the worst is not behind us yet. Each day is changing. Things will be very dynamic going forward also. So one thing is important, that we need to be agile to the times that we are in, and we need to move on quickly. We need to take quick decisions. The time for collaborating and that bureaucracy to be there, where the decisions are going till the top and people are taking actions, are no more there. And each layer is empowered at shop floor. People on the shop floor are doing all kinds of things to put up contactless doors in place, and sanitizers with food pedals and whatnot. If people can do that kind of innovation at the lowest level, just look at the power of innovation that is there across the organization and the hierarchy. So one is that element of your the employee base needs to keep moving. Second, I think important thing is that the deliveries, whatever in pharma, at least we need to rise up to the occasion, because comorbidities have also become very, very significant now. People want to be safe on the other diseases so that COVID doesn't catch them, and that's where we need to go all guns blazing to ensure that supplies never stop. Immunity is taking a big piece. Multivitamins are selling like hot cakes. So there's a lot of dutifulness, a lot of pride that we should be taking. We are as good as an essential service like a policeman, or the doctors, and that's the kind of pride that we are also trying to instill in employees. I think two other elements from the employee standpoint, keeping business aside, I think one important thing is we are also asking people to multi-skill themselves. We say true innovation happens at the cusp of two disciplines. It is important that people need to know more. People who are students who are attending this, do they know coding? They should be knowing coding. There's no reason that, if I am not an engineer, I don't know how to code. You don't need to be an engineer to know how to code. You just need to have the right attitude and believe that you can learn anything. And similarly, on the shop floor, there are people who are not coming. So who will fill in their place? There has to be one person doing 2-3 things together. So I think the importance of multi-skilling so that employee is also relevant to the business and he doesn't fear, losing jobs is also, important. So I think these are, few elements that come to my mind, and the rest I'm leaving for the other panelists to also chime in.
Thank you. Over to you, Nidhi, quickly. So, your thoughts on it.
Sure. So there are a couple of things as HR professional I would focus on, which we have been trying to do, is how do you retain talent? Those who are, my, high potential guys out there. And, especially in the current context, that becomes a challenge. You cannot actually physically connect with them. So we do career conversations, engagement dialogues, other aspects, making sure that, although, of course, attrition numbers have come down, but even then in our kind of industry, the market is opening up. We can see talent being lapped up with other competitors. So how do I ring fence my talent becomes number one. Number two, how do you give, how do you ensure that there is an ecosystem that sort of talks about celebration in the current context? Because everything is so loomy and dull. How do you make it engaging and a culture of celebration? So we recently did, and a lot of companies are doing the COVID warriors. Right from the drivers to the people who are out there in the front line in the organization. How do you sort of give it back to them, say thank you to them, etc. So how do you, in your own ways, create a culture of celebration amid the entire gloomy, dark picture that's currently prevailing and may prevail for the next couple of months? So these are the two thoughts I'll leave with, and a lot of others have already been spoken about. Thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi. Over to you, Praveen.
Okay, well, again, when it comes to priority, people and the people safety is the priority in all the manners. At all times, health and safety is our priority. The second most important thing is how do we ensure the future of the organization? What are the new measures we're taking? There are a lot of initiatives we are taking in this location. And the primary focus is also lying on the resilience of our company to ensure business continuity. Of course, in addition to the organization level, as an HR, a couple of points which I would want to share is we are doing a lot of things in terms of employee engagement. We're trying to find innovative ways how to do things on a virtual platform. Like a recent thing, what we have done is a celebration of an Independence Day, let's say, but we did it completely virtual, and it was very well received by employees. At the same time, we have to accept the fact what's going on. How do we ensure the career progression happens? What are the kind of virtual tools we are using? We are onboarding a lot of virtual tools, which probably I will share with you in a couple of minutes, also in the other topics maybe. So these are the kind of initiatives what we are taking to ensure we keep the continuity of just not business, but engagement, career development, learning, and all the factors.
Great, thank you. Over to you, Manish.
Thanks, Professor. And I'll build up on what Shivaditya said. Since we come from same industry, I think I can copy some things from Shivaditya. And one thing I would like to say that he spoke of acting out the safety and other aspects. That's of course part of our business only. So we didn't have to do much actually as compared to other industries because we are a regulated organization or industry, and we have certain set of, I think, highest level of safety and hygiene aspects. So that wasn't actually much of a concern other than monitoring it. Important aspect was sticking to the plan, right? Because this was one of those times when strategy was being formulated every week, every month, kind of a scenario. You were doing something and you were still feeling that it's falling short. So again, there is a discussion, and again there is a challenge, a new challenge coming in. And then one of those, like, how do we ensure ergonomics for our people who are sitting at home? Not everybody is carrying a workstation or carrying an environment where they can work in a way they work at office. So we started with that. Then again, we spoke of, okay, now what? People are getting anxious. The anxiety levels are going higher. So our chairman took a lead, and the chairman and co-chairman took a lead, and they started inviting these motivational speakers. Plus, we from HR, again, I go back where HR was taking the front seat here in this, was like we created a plan where we indulged with certain psychologists or motivational speakers. So we gave a free hotline option to people at any part of the globe, and they could connect with them. Of course, there were some language issues, but then we found out the local experts also, motivational speakers or psychologists per se. And that is something which was done at the official level. Second aspect which got touched upon was about CSR, where we were increasing that aspect, because amid this entire pandemic, almost everyone, all of us sitting here also would have felt a need to contribute, right? So that's where we suggested that, okay, let's create certain platforms. For example, we created a support system to provide lunches for these COVID warriors, say policemen and all that. So we floated a open poll. Whoever wants to nominate themselves, they can come and participate into it. And we arranged for those. Of course, there was a number restriction. Not like everybody will come and start contributing, and they'll unnecessarily contribute to the pandemic rather than the help. So we kept it in check, and almost on an average 100 to 200 people on a routine basis, not like same person getting it more and more. So on a staggered basis, they were getting involved into it. So that also addressed to that need or feel of a person to contribute, to be a part of the larger society.
Great. I think to sum up the answers to the questions, first two questions, I think we all are reacting and responding and returning and transforming at the same time, during this pandemic. I think the space of change has been incredible, and hence it is actually accelerated and the transformation journey for all of us. While the organizations have actually to transform as per the new reality of work, job security, personal health, finances, childcare become so important challengers to cater to. Moving now to the third question to the panelists, and I would like Nidhi to actually start first, and then we'll move across all the other three panelists. To what extent has this COVID-19 accelerated the shift towards, we spoke about it, about digital transformation, and what are some of of your latest measures in terms of business continuity of this digital innovations? So something on the second part you would like to share more on this? What are some of your latest measures in terms of business continuity of digital innovation?
Sure, thank you. So I think I've already just highlighting on the examples. I'm sure all organizations are moving 100% towards digital transformation. Currently it's easy, of course, for IT organizations. For us, we were somewhere midway and moving completely towards 100% digitization. I will just talk in terms of the workforce planning. So the whole workforce planning, recruitment, the entire life cycle of employee life cycle moving digitization, right from the onboarding experience to an employee. And it's not easy for an employee to join in a digital methodology, because he or she seeks connect, and psychologically you want connect where you actually coming into an office space and seek connect. It's very hard to do it. And how do you make sure the team integration happens seamlessly? How do you make sure somebody who is joining on sites, we have about 45 sites across various remote places across spread in India and abroad. How do you make sure that people feel they have the Thermax logo and understand what Thermax is, those who are joining digitally, onboarded virtually today in this context? And that becomes so important. How do you ensure business continuity in terms of commissioning of boilers, downtime in Sri Lanka, other aspects and examples of making sure that your workforce is available when they need to be available, but at the same time, which is extremely important, at the same time giving them the space. Because working from now, we are working from the look at the mindset shift. So now we are not saying working from home. We are talking about working from anywhere, which is what also the earlier speaker talked about. Working from anywhere, moving from working from anywhere to making sure that it's also giving space to employees to follow their own routine. Because suddenly you get into the routine that yes, employees are available 24/7. How do you break that and give a break to your employees as well? So those are the kinds of shifts of mindsets digitally that we have to look at. And through smart technologies, through use of AI, we have been able to do it to some extent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nidhi. Over to you, Praveen. We would like to understand what the organization has done and your thoughts.
Yeah. So you would have seen this famous WhatsApp joke, who led digital transformation? Uh, I'll not tell you the first two options. The third option is COVID-19. So anyways, that's a joke. Firstly, I wanted to tell you that things are so transparent today. It's this is directly impacting the employer brand, because experience is something which matters on every step. What we give to I call it as three steps: zero. Let's say the second one is one, and the third one is infinity. So zero is someone who are willing to join our organization. One is who are working in our organization. Infinity is probably who have left the organization. So in this regards, what I wanted to say is that things are so transparent. You onboard a person immediately in the evening, or while you are onboarding a person, there is a post on LinkedIn or Facebook saying that excellent experience, thanks to so and so person, right? You finished an interview that I have done this today. I have been hired on so and so platform. I'm very happy. It was seamless experience, and so on and so forth. So all these things are enabled so nicely only because of the digital transformation initiatives. In the academics, what I've read is this 4-grid box, which one of the quadrant in terms of strategies, in terms of priority of high of urgency as well as importance. My prof used to say that you should always focus not to be in that box, because if you take decisions which are always urgent and important, then you're running around. You're focusing on very short-term things and stuff like that. But now it has become the need of the time. So coming to the examples of what we have done is that, let's say I'll talk about recruitment piece only at this point of time. The complete journey of recruitment for a candidate experience as well as the business, they are my customers. We have taken each step and have seen how we can optimize that and make it transform it digitally and give a great experience to people. For example, one of them is, let's say, the one of the problem statement was that, okay, now we are doing all the interviews virtually, but see, I switch on the computer to log into the meeting request and so on, and it takes to at least at an average 5 minutes to do the adjustments of the mic, picture, and all. Now, and at the same time, after a few minutes, I realized that actually what the person has written in the resume is not reflecting when he or she is speaking. This happens most of the time. So what we have done is that we have introduced one of the platform called HireView, where we ask people standard 3 or 4 questions, and it's live. Now the manager can sit at his home from his mobile or computer with a coffee in the balcony and just look at that 1 minute questions, how the person has impromptu answered, and they can say yes, no, and the recruiter gets a signal whether to schedule the interview or not. So this is a huge relief for the business. So there are a lot of examples I can share for sure, but I'll pass it on to my other co-panelists.
Over to you, Manish. Your quick thoughts on it.
Yes. So I think the one cohesiveness happening is we are leaving something for somebody. Some points are left for somebody, and I think it's a good social way of living and sharing. Thanks, Praveen and Nidhi. So, as I was saying, that we were actually slightly ahead of the curve in terms of digitalization or digitization of our processes. We have been having this recruitment tool online, which has been there with us for almost a year now. And though the recruitment numbers have come down, but this tool has pumped up our efforts in terms of much ease of life. Not everybody is running helter skelter, what to do, what not to do, because they were already trained by the time COVID kicked in. So, like Praveen said, who digitized the world? COVID. Yes, of course, it accelerated it quite a bit. And another thing which has happened for us is the onboarding, which was virtual. So, like Praveen again spoke of somebody joining in, and immediately in few seconds or minutes, it's updated on LinkedIn or any other sites. Important aspect for me was like we were talking about sales capabilities for us. That was the piece which was not so much digitized, and marketing, where we were initially into it, and now that spread again, accelerated a lot, because like we were discussing earlier, the important aspect is about providing the medicine, that it should be in the shelf where person goes to buy. The shelf should not be empty. There should be something which is available. And when I see that, it is related to your manufacturing, supply chain, operations, and of course the sales guy. So earlier, salespeople were supposed to be in the market. Without the kind of business we are into, you have to meet and explain your products and speak to hospital, doctors, and everybody. That went away totally. So that online learning opportunity, that online enhancement of capabilities helped us, since we already have a online learning management tool, that helped us to evolve faster and address the needs faster. So fortunately for all of us in pharma industry, and particularly to Dr. Reddy's, our numbers have grown up quite considerably. And primarily, like Shivaditya spoke of, comorbidities, where people are more afraid of not falling sick, was like piling up of medicines and all that. So I think we have been able to so far manage it well, and digital capabilities which we are trying and have been working upon have served us so far good. Over to you, Shivaditya. I'm taking just one.
Sure, thanks, Manish. We can save some time of doctor also by going round robin quickly. Yeah, but I took 10 seconds already. Yeah. Okay. Just to add, quickly, I think I already spoke. We have more institutional customers who are other pharma organizations. So I think reaching out to them digitally, also giving them 360-degree view of our plants, a virtual tour of our plants and the R&D setup. I think that's something that we've invested a lot in. And second, I think internal collaboration among employees is also critical. We are seeing that people are saying that innovation should not happen very suddenly also. And what happens is, on the web platform, people want to somehow finish it early. It's like you are half an hour discussing, and then somebody says, "Acha, chalo karte hain isko, chalo, let's go ahead." I think that's what it ends up into. That fatigue starts setting in, and the distraction starts setting in very quickly. So I think we found tools wherein you can have breakout rooms, something similar to what we are doing in Airbus. There are breakout rooms, there are whiteboards, people can make diagrams and discuss. So I think a lot on collaboration is being done. Also, we are trying to show the good side of digital when it comes to employee celebration of families. I can show my son to my colleagues, they can take it to my homes. I can celebrate with family. I know one organization which did a family Kaizen, and they gave awards to families. Their career counseling that we've done for kids. They're worried about their exams and all. Today in the evening, we are doing a do's and don'ts for the families. So digital gives you a big bandwidth. And if you're able to subsume even employees' families into your culture, there can't be any place better. So I think that way, in the internal collaboration bit, it is helping us a lot. I think the governance, the surveillance, employee privacy, signatures not getting copied. I think that is becoming very important, where IT is again investing. And of course, we are giving enablers like bots. There are bots, the Pyro that we have launched. It can speak with employees, it can converse, give them ideas on policy doubts. Not all of them are coming to office, so they can interact and get their answers. So that's why we are getting into AI. And so much employee data is getting generated now, and so much data is getting generated across the organization that a lot of predictive analytics is also being done. So, we are studying what hours of the day employees learn the most on the system, and that time we launch a new learning. We are looking at predictive attrition analytics also. A lot of these things are also being, embraced much faster by the organization these days. So these are few things in the digital space.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Now the last question, because we looking at the time zone, but we'll take up certain questions being asked in the chat box. So the fourth question from my side to you all, the talent acquisition heads. What are the CHRO's expectations from from the talent acquisition teams? You've been a part of it. And how should you, being the talent acquisition leaders, reimagine the talent acquisition to set up and then step into the future? So over to you, Praveen. We can start from you and then let others share their thoughts.
Thank you very much. All the questions are very thought provoking, and I, as a panelist, I'm learning a lot from others. So first and foremost thing is we are going to move from a conventional approach to a very new approach, what is called a decision based on analytics. So no more you go to a job, how do I say, not going to a job portal and searching things by keywords or sourcing and so on and so forth. You have a lot of tools where you can get the talent insights, and you can find where are those gold mines for this particular competency or skill set. So that is the first thing which is going to transform very soon, point A. And second thing is, which I feel that there will be a lot of focus on candidate experience as well as the business experience. Okay, one of the thing in candidate experience is remote hiring and stuff like that. And always the question is going to come back to the same thing: is, are you prepared for the change, whatever it can be? For example, let's say tomorrow we decide that we will go into hiring of gig task force. Are you prepared for that? Okay, how and if so, how are you doing that? And there are a couple of the last point which I wanted to share it, which is on the priority list of all the organizations, is having a diverse and inclusive task force. So how are you equipped in terms of the AI offerings which are available in the market, which will root out the human bias by uncovering the differences between the human and the AI decision making? So these are the kind of things which TAs have to be, TA leaders have to be prepared to take things forward. And I pass on to Manish for his opinion on this.
Thanks, Praveen. And when we speak of TA and future challenges, Professor, I think more than that, we also have to see what kind of capabilities are available in the market. Because that's a challenge which is going around. So much has happened in last 5 to 8 years, rather say a decade, where new techs, new capabilities have sprung up, and we are not able to even find a person who will assist them to onboard. So for example, if I have to hire a digital marketing person, for example, I have to look around who are the people who can assess that kind of a resource to check out whether I'm hiring a right resource or not. So that itself is coming over a period. We are trying to overcome it by creating in-house capabilities, but that is a challenge. Similarly, we speak of AI, ML, data analytics, fine, we need it, but who are the people who are doing it? Are they doing it in the best of the manner possible, or are they doing it just because they are doing it? What is the so-called benchmark of such skills and capabilities? So I think that is another aspect which we are working with certain experts in the industry. And of course, that brings me to another aspect which is more internal. How am I internally enhancing capabilities of my team members or leaders who are hiring such people? Because when these capabilities are onboarded, like anybody else, they will seek guidance. They will seek where to go, how to go, and all those parts. So if I'm not able to guide certain new senses, new ideas, then they are like Nidhi was speaking, they are on the fence because they have greener pastures everywhere. So they are looking at a career which is prolonged, and they are also looking at somebody who can, in the organization, who help them and give them play area. So that brings us to another perspective. As an organization, how are we creating that space where these capability holders are able to experiment and then deliver results, because they are in a evolving phase. These technologies or these capabilities are ever evolving. So you spoke of cloud, then suddenly AI, then ML, and then data analytics. Now you're presenting a data analytics to someone and the person is not able to even take insights out of it, then that's a problem. So we have to work at all three levels, at individual, at external, and at organizational level. So I think that's a challenge which we are working internally among ourselves and associating with certain external experts to bring those insights and capabilities within the system. If I answered your question, Doctor.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. Thanks, Manish, and thanks, Praveen. So, I think, one important thing which Praveen spoke about is, the talent pool has to significantly expand. Now, there are freelancers, consultants, academicians who would like to do projects with organizations, students who are reaching out every day for doing a project, retirees, second innings mothers. There's so many people who can come into the basket, and how can we do work around it to ensure that our talent pool expands is one thing wherein TA should focus. Second, there has to be quicker turnaround. Gone are the days where we are saying that वो person bus में चढ़ चुका है 3 दिन बाद आएगा interview देने के लिए. Now you just do digital interviews, and then people have to get selected and report at the place if it's a factory and you need to there, or just work from your home. So the idea is that turnaround, the matrix that they are looking at, and what matters to the business also needs to be quickened. Third is, I think, the constant communication with the candidate is extremely important, because, it's only through the TA that and social media that our candidate gets to know the organization. Probably he will never set foot in your office or will do it very late once we are post COVID, right? So I think constant communication, because otherwise what happens is I'm sitting on my desk. Yesterday I'm with company A, today I'm with company B, but my work desk in my home remains the same. So I think constant communication and making them aware about the culture, setting a very strong virtual onboarding is also important. Fourth, of course, the social media presence, speaking with organizations, speaking with candidates, engaging with them. I think that's one key piece that also talent acquisition team should take up. So that's that from my side.
Thank you. Over to you, Nidhi.
Yes. So I think a lot has been said, and I'll keep it short and brief. I know this is also the last question. So completely agree with my panel members here on AI, on making sure a strong onboarding is in place. The one thing that we have to look at, and I think Praveen mentioned that, is the gig worker. So today, especially with students, they are looking at more of a versatile profile than specialist. So while you hire them as specialists for their engineering skills, for their HR skills, for their, etc., for their skills, they may want to work, and we have experimented with this. We are running an agile project where young workers are working with SMEs, and we are able to show greater progress. So you sort of bring teams across distributed levels together, and how do you work with teams across various functions? So can an engineering and finance be put together? Can an HR work with construction? And that's going to become more and more of a reality, interestingly. And we experimented with it about 2 months ago, and it's given us great results. So while you check in for college hires in terms of other skills and of course their core skills, how do you check the attitude of students in terms of being a versatilist versus they saying, "Nahi, I've been hired just as a mechanical engineering and I'll only work as on proposals," versus saying, "Okay, I'm ready to work with admin on what we have to do in terms of guest houses and stuff like that." And I mean, a totally different thing. And therefore attitude becomes very, very important. How much are they supposed to available to flex themselves? So I'll just leave it at that. I think rest all the points have been covered by my co-panel members. Thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi. I have just browsed through the chat and I'll just pick up certain questions for us. There is a question to you, Praveen, that the aviation industry has suffered more than the most as the pandemic destroys the ticket sales and stripped companies of cash. So in this situation, how does Airbus plans to further adapt to COVID-19 environment?
Right. The point is very true. It has a good impact on aviation industry because linked to travel, linked to tourism, linked to business travel, and so on and so forth. So one thing I wanted to tell you is that there is a constant effort from Airbus as well as a couple of other organizations in the industry. There are certain initiatives being taken to ensure that the air travel is very safe, and also to communicate to the potential travelers that the air travel is safe. And also I can tell you an example where a recent innovation which was done by Honeywell, where they have developed a robot which can, in 2 minutes, can completely kill all the virus which is there in case in the in the fuselage of an aircraft by using UV technology. So there are a lot of transformations happening, and I believe that air travel is completely safe. The way airports and the airlines as well as the aircraft manufacturing companies are taking initiatives.
Great, great. Thank you. This is something news which did not come much, but I think the robot having an killing up a virus is a new insight we got to know. Okay, the next question which has come up is for Shivaditya for you. COVID-19 is disrupting the pharma industry, okay, causing the drug shortage around the world and exposing the need for a more resilient global supply chain. So, how can digital technology change this sector and make a global pharma production?
Okay, thanks. So I really wish digital could help us, make raw materials and send it across to us, to our factories, and then we being able to ship it out, to other countries or export it. I think the one important thing that we'll have to look at is that digital, to a large extent, is an enabler. One thing is that we'll have to find places in the factories where we can use automation to improve our reliability. I think that's one very important thing. There was a big thing on manless factories wherein people operate from their home. There's a large what do you call control screen in front of you, and you click on one button and raw material from one equipment goes to the other one, and from somewhere else it goes to other, and the production happens, and you need very few people in the plants. Now we have, already organizations are going to an extent that we can see live what is the production at various places within our factories. Even consumers on behalf of whom we are making, they can also see. So I think such such ways of monitoring, tracking, and putting the pressure is always there through digital. But the where digital can be used as automation in the factories. I don't know how so much we can do it in the supply chain, apart from putting in RFIDs or ensuring sanitization happens through some kind of technology, etc. And some of your operations folks would be the right people who would innovate in that area. So I think that's one thing which certainly is there, where we need to do better. And second, also we need to realize that it is not only digital which is going to help us in the supply chain, because it's a very complex thing. There are so many geopolitical changes. I can tell you 50% of our raw materials used to come from one country only. Now we are trying to de-risk that country and trying to find other alternative suppliers, and all of them are at a different evolution when it comes to digital. What matters to us is that the right raw material which can make us the right medicine and help the patient recover from the disease gets made, right? So that still remains primary. As long as we get confidence from that, digital or non-digital, I think that's what matters. But yeah, I think definitely digital needs to be put in somewhere in supply chain to ensure that the delivery time gets shortened. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Nidhi, you have a question, the migrant laborers has given a rise to the shortage of non-technical workers working in the energy industry. So how this has affected Thermax, and how did you mitigate this risk?
Uh, so for the most part, we were not impacted because for us, where mostly we are a core engineering organization, and I mentioned the site context, a little bit, and most of our workers in the site are white collar employees who are, diploma engineers working as control room engineers, etc. We are in the whole business of erecting power plants, and that's what we do, and making sure they have the right, so we are from that context. We don't have a lot of availability in our context of industry for the workers. So I won't be able to answer it from that context. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Yes, yes. But anyways, thank you for attempting and sharing your thoughts on that question. Manish, there's a question for you too. How are Dr. Reddy's laboratories focused on meeting the high demand for medicines from India and overseas while ensuring employee safety? And what were the challenges faced in bringing the staff to factories?
Okay. So, like I said earlier, we are a part of a very hygiene oriented organization, or rather industry, and not much of a concern is there in terms of, say, COVID or no COVID, because we have certain set of practices which have to be followed. The more to do to answer the question was more on emotional and anxious level. That's where the key was. Like, it's everywhere. Why should I risk myself? But when we assured people, or all our employees, first of all, they are mentally associated with that mindset, with our vision of providing medicine. So we didn't have to sell it too much. They were already keen that this is the time of need and we should contribute. So that part was half one. Second was how to ensure that they stay safe. So we created different teams from admin, HR, and other operative leaders. And they created, for example, there were managers who were ensuring that all workmen in the factory or in the production staff were getting into the bus one by one with distance. Imagine a person who who was supposed and used to operate and manage factory operations. He is now ensuring people are getting into the buses in a proper way. So it's a cohesion of forces and cohesion of ideas and the intent, which actually we didn't have to do much. The second aspect was more to do with the challenges. Initially, of course, the PPE kits and then the how to do it. It was ever evolving. Every week we were looking at different things, new challenges. And like Shivaditya spoke of, that in one screen you could see everything was happening. That was a PLC, Shivaditya, where you could see the red light and blue lights happening, and one button and everything goes off. And now with that getting into more digitized, where people were also seeing that this is how we can work, they were more curious. Of course, first was willingness to help others and being in the pharma industry. That's the pride which everybody of us was carrying it, and a responsibility, of course. And then the curiosity, how we come out of this and bring everybody out of it. So those three or four things actually helped us rather than we helping them other way. Right. So we are, I'll say, somewhere we'll take pride that we are a part of that industry which is much more concerned about humanity by default, if I'm answering your question to the person who asked.
Right. Yeah. I think we have overshooted the time. I'll have to sum up, but then we can take it up during the lounge interactions where the delegates can actually interact. Indeed, it was an enthralling session for everyone of us who connected today. It was delightful to see that the talent leaders have put up their futuristic hats and are tackling the impending challenges to breed the new opportunities. Your views today on today's panel discussion topics were outstanding. I took it up as a key takeaways is family kaizen, or a multi-skilling and having a psychologist, or making it stepwise communication, and actually making the employees comfortable and telling them that's fine. Don't feel bad that people are watching your home. So I think that comfort zone to get the employees. A few of the learnings, we took it today, and thank you so much for coming here, spending your Sundays and sharing up your thoughts on this panel discussion, and it will also instill inspiration for all of us to go further. Thank you so much. Over to you, Nimisha.
Thanks,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Professor.
Thank you, ma'am. That was indeed an engaging session with quite a few significant takeaways. I thank the panelists and the moderator for such a deep and informative discussion. Before signing off, let me call upon Mr. Vibhav Singh, convener, HR Summit 2020, to give the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Nimisha. Good afternoon, everyone. What an insightful Sunday afternoon it is. Today, we started talking about responses, and through those actions, what an image organization creates in the eye of stakeholders, and complemented the same through live disruptions in the form of technical glitches. And it cemented the fact that in some form or other, things will continue, and this is the new world order. Thank you, Ms. Shalu and Mr. Ajay, for those powerful keynote speeches. Then we deep dived into an enriching panel discussion, getting insights from Ms. Nidhi, Mr. Shivaditya, Mr. Manish, and Mr. Praveen. Diverse industry background of panelists made the discussion very interesting. Thank you to all our panel members. I would like to thank our esteemed delegates for their active participation throughout the session. Thank you, Dr. Vanna Sonvani, Director SIOM, and Dr. Yashomandra Kherde, Faculty Convener HR Summit 2020 and Placements Head SIOM, for their constant support throughout. Thank you, our respected faculty members and SIOM staff members to make this possible. A heartfelt applaud to our sponsors and student organizing team of HR Summit 2020 to be the backbone of this event. With this, we conclude the fifth session of Summit and looking forward to have you for the next episodes as well. The social launch feature will be available for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Wish you all a very happy networking. Thank you once again. Good afternoon.
Thanks so much. Please stay safe.